Welcome to the South Ops Fire Weather Webcast for Thursday, December 19th. I'm your host, Kristen Stewart. The visible satellite imagery this morning looks a lot like it did yesterday, with the Central Valley completely enshrouded in low clouds. Once again, these clouds will be hard to clear, and it will be another cool and gloomy day up there. The high pressure and control, combined with breezy offshore flow, has once again prevented the formation of marine layer clouds along the coastline, save for some patches of clouds along the south coast, assisted by an eddy circulation. The thin, high clouds overhead will be of no consequence, and today will be another warm and sunny day for most areas, except this time with less wind. Current wind observations, shown from Ventura County to the Inland Empire, indicate that Santa Ana winds from the last couple days have finally diminished, and we are finally back to a lighter wind pattern. However, there remains some breeziness in the higher terrain of Southern California, with gusts in the 15 to 25 mile an hour range, and a few localized spots up to 30 miles an hour. This breeziness is expected to continue through the day, probably weakening some as we get into the afternoon. Expect an earlier return of the sea breeze to the coastal areas today, which will help cool temperatures down a bit. Once again, there were areas of very poor to non-existent humidity recoveries last night across the wind-prone regions of Southern California, leading to a very dry start to the morning. Despite the lack of Santa Ana winds, the lingering dry air will keep humidity on the low side today, with minimums mostly in the teens for the majority of Southern California. With this dry air in place, along with localized breeziness, elevated fire weather conditions will continue through the day. Central California will continue to see much higher humidity, with no fire weather issues. Now that the Santa Ana winds have diminished and the sea breeze will make its return, temperatures across the coastal areas will cool down a few degrees. However, continued high pressure will keep temperatures on the warmer side. Expect highs in the upper 70s to around 80 for the warmest Southern California valleys. Low to mid 70s are expected for the central coast. With lots of cloud cover lingering over the Central Valley, highs will remain mostly in the 60s. In regard to our upcoming weather pattern, we are in for another uneventful sequence for the most part. High pressure will remain draped over the western U.S. through the work week, keeping us warm and dry. Then it will weaken as a weak trough moves into Northern California on Saturday. Weak high pressure will remain dominant into early next week as a couple of disturbances move in north of the area. This will help cool us down and bring a return of the marine layer. A quick and weak storm system may bring wet weather to Central California on Tuesday, then Christmas will be another dry day. In response to the weakening high pressure and deepening marine layer, temperatures over Southern California will gradually cool through the weekend. Here's a look at the high temperature forecast as we get to Sunday. The warmest Southern California valleys will return to the low to mid 70s and will stay mostly steady into early next week. Temperatures over Central California will remain in the 60s. Further cooling is likely by mid next week with the next storm system. Along with the deepening marine layer, humidity will gradually improve each day. Winds will turn back onshore and there will be no significant wind issues through the period. As several disturbances move into the west coast to the north of our region this weekend into early next week, the tail end of any precipitation may slide through portions of Central California. As a result, chances of light scattered showers are possible across Central California Saturday through Monday, with little in the way of accumulation. Nothing significant will come from this, at least for our region, and Southern California will remain dry. Much better rainfall is expected for Northern California. Wet weather is looking increasingly likely for Christmas Eve across much of the area, though still mostly favoring Central California and northward, with little rainfall expected for Southern California. Details still remain fuzzy at this time, but it still looks like Southern California will not receive any significant precipitation that would help end the fire season. Despite this, any fire weather concerns will be unlikely as we go into the holiday week with the cooler weather and increasing humidity. With the continued dry conditions and lingering breeziness in the higher terrain, elevated fire weather conditions are likely to continue today. Then conditions will improve going into the weekend. In all, large fire potential will remain low through the period as temperatures cool, humidity increases, and wind remains light. Fire weather concerns will be unlikely through the period, though we have to remember that Southern California still has not received significant precipitation, and it does not look like that is coming anytime soon. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for tuning in. Our next webcast will be on Friday, December 20th. Have a fantastic day.